How did you end up choosing the college you went to? Were there a lot of colleges recruiting you back in the day?
Well, I think I had to choose. I was a walk-on. I bullied my way into Southern University, pretty much. Thought I had a scholarship. My best friend and teammate at high school, the coach came to Southern University's head coach came to visit him, and my head coach, high school coach, asked him if I could sit in on it, and he said yes, and so he was mostly talking to my friend and teammate. His name was Blyton Geiger, and he, like almost had his back turned to me, and I said, I just sat there and listened. So they sent me one letter or something that I guess it's something that they just had to do, just in a letter saying that they did come by or something. But anyway, I stopped getting letters, but my friend kept getting them. And so I just said, well, maybe they made a mistake or sent it to some other place. So when we were supposed to report, I got on the train with Blyton, and we got to Southern University, and they didn't have my name on any list to be picked up from the train or either a dormitory room. We had nothing. I had nothing. So they suggested that I go talk to the head coach, and I did. And he asked them to give me a room, and did my first practice, and it was history.
Because you were 6'8", and you went there and you wanted to play quarterback.
No, I wanted. My thing. I played quarterback in high school. Only my senior year in high school. I didn't make the team until my 11th grade year. I couldn't make the team, and my senior year I was starting quarterback, but I went to, I was going to play wide receiver.
So when you were at Southern University, what was it like playing down there back in the late 60s?
Oh, it was great. The only thing we had was that I knew of was Southern University's campus. I think I might have went downtown maybe out of the 4 years, maybe 5 or 6 times. And that was just I had I did hurt my back, and I went to the doctor's office then, and that was an adventure there, and that was it. That's pretty much it. Didn't go shopping for anything because it was really nothing for me to do downtown.
So you were playing wide receiver at Southern. There was a cornerback there that wasn't too bad. It was your teammate, and Mel Blount. Did you go against him every day in practice?
Every day in practice. When I got to Southern, again, just being new there, and saw Mel there. At one time he did some punt returns and all, but he was a starting cornerback. So I went against him every day, and till this day, I would say he's the one that got me ready for the NFL.
What made him so good, or what made him get you ready for the NFL? What did he do so well?
Well, he laughs at it. It says it's not true, but from 1st to 12th grade, I was in Brenda Blunt was my classmate from 1st grade to 12th grade, and at one time I had a crush on her, and she didn't want to have anything to do with me. So when I got to Southern, going against Mel, and Mel was from Georgia, which is not too far from out of Jacksonville, really. And I said, "Do you have any relatives in Jacksonville, Florida?" He said, "Yeah, I got my first cousins in Jacksonville." I said, "Do you know Brenda Blunt?" He said, "Yeah, that's my cousin." I said, "Did she say anything to you about me?" Because every time I would go out and catch a pass, anybody else would when they would go out and run a pass, maybe catch a pass against Mel, he'd two-hand touch him. But if I caught a pass against him, he'll clothesline me. I said, "But why are you so mean to me?" I said, "Did Brenda tell you anything about me?" He laughed at it, but no, Mel has been a physical player, I mean, from all the way in college, back in college, you know.
So who was the toughest team you guys played against in college?
Oh, back then, you know, just about every um, HBCU was good. You know, you had Grambling, Texas Southern, Prairie View, Alcorn, you know, Mississippi Valley. You know, there was a Florida A&M. I mean, they were all pretty good. You know, you had some was a little better than these, but you got somebody in the Hall of Fame from every one of those schools. You know, and that's where a lot of the number one and number two draft choices were coming at one time, because from Southern and Grambling and Texas Southern. I mean, there was a ton of guys, and then, you know, after a while, it just tapered off, you know. But we had a lot of good schools back there.
Did you have any idea that you were going to get drafted by the Eagles?
Oh no, I had no idea. You know, back then you didn't have the Twitter and the news that wasn't talking about it. At least, you know, we weren't getting any information about it. And my agent at the time was saying that I was going to be drafted between number 1 and number 3. You know, I don't know why he was telling me that, but when I was a 7th round draft choice, but no, I had no idea where I was going or if I was.
So how did you find out the Eagles were going to draft you?
Well, draft day. Back then, I don't know if you remember, back in the late '60s and early '70s, they did it like the first round. They started in the morning, pretty much, and it was late morning, and number 1 draft round came around. You know, I had one guy, Butch Robinson. He was drafted in the first round, and I had a couple other teammates that were drafted in the 2nd, 5th, and 6th rounds and 4th rounds, and then they stopped televising it at around I guess about 6 or 7 o'clock. So I went out, but all day long the guys have been teasing of playing jokes on the football team, because we was in an all athletic dormitory. The guys from the basketball team or baseball team, they would back then we had the pay phones on the wall, and they would take the phone off the receiver off the hook and let the phone the receiver hang. Then they go knock on somebody's door and say, "You got a call, you got drafted," and you get to the phone and there's nobody there. You know, so they was doing that almost all day to a lot of guys that knew they weren't going to get drafted. So I went out. When I came back in, a guy came and knocked on my door and said that my agent had called. And I said, "Come on, man, stop joking around." He said, "No, I'm serious." So I know he didn't know my agent's name, so he mentioned my agent's name and gave me the number that he had written down. And so I called my agent back, and he said, "Yes, you got drafted by the Eagles in the 7th round, and they're going to call you. And when they call you, you tell them." I said, "Me tell them? I thought you were my agent. I thought you were supposed to." He said, "Well, you know, I got a number 1 draft choice. I got a number 5 draft choice. And from other teams. That my roommate was he was drafted in the 5th round." And like I said, Isaiah Robinson, Butch Robinson. We had, like I said, that year we had about 5 guys that got drafted from Southern that year. And he said, "Well, the Eagles going to call you, and you tell them this." And I really was turned off from him from that. So the Eagles did call me, and I just, whatever they said, I said okay, and whatever they sent, I signed it and sent it back. He didn't negotiate anything for me. So when I got to Philadelphia, I was introduced to the guy that's my agent, Jim Solano, which he's got it to really put the gold jacket on me. We've been knowing each other now for 53 years now, pretty much, and so he told me, he said, "Well, once you get here and stuff, we'll take care," because the first guy was asking for money and stuff, and I said, "What did you do?" It didn't do anything for me, So we got that clear. But that's how the first part of going to coming to the Eagles and all. So.
What was it like to go to Philadelphia in 1971? Did you have any idea what the Eagles were all about?
I had no idea. Growing up in Jacksonville, you could watch an NFL game the first half, and halftime come, and when it comes back, after halftime, you were waiting for a game, and they have bowling on or golf coming in the second half. So I didn't see a lot of, and the teams that we did see was the Rams and the Colts and probably more like Green Bay. I knew nothing about Philadelphia and all, and it was all brand new to me. Where Philadelphia was, what the names, all of that, I found that after getting drafted.
So when you go there as a wide receiver and they make you a tight end. Were you okay with that, or you just went along with the program?
Well, I went in. I started the wide receiver, and they had some injuries, and they put me in tight end, and I was really too small of a, as far as weight concerned. I was only like 219 pounds, and back then the way you had to block back then, there was no way I was going to be a blocking tight end. And back in those days, we ran the ball a lot, so you had to be able to block also. Not only just being a receiver tight end, but you had to be a blocking tight end also. So I got in there, and I was in. They had me in three positions. I was a X, Y, and Z. I had to learn all three positions each week, So it would be some games when I would, be on the sideline, and the receiver coach would ask me, "Did you study your tight end plays?" And then, I said yes. So I knew how to play split end, flanker, and tight end. So I didn't know what position I was going to be playing that week.
What did Mike McCormick do for you when he became head coach in '73? How did he help your career?
Well, between Mike McCormick and Boyd Dowler, I remember after my second year, they traded Harold Jackson to the Rams, and I was back home in Jacksonville, and I got the call from Boyd Dowler, and they told me that they had traded Harold Jackson, and that they expected me to be the starting wide receiver. And learned so much in 1 year from Boyd Dowler than I had in the first 2 years. Boyd Dowler, he's like 6'5", 6'6", and when he came in, when he saw me and all, and watched film on me, he said, "Harold, you're trying to run patterns like a guy 5'8" or 6 foot tall. You got to, we're going to change some things up and kind of adjust what we do in order to get you to where you need to be." And he did. And that year, I led the league in receptions.
I know Boyd Dowler is often overlooked, but again, he's been a finalist for the Hall of Fame. Did he work on your route running, or did he work on your catching? Why was he so critical?
Route running mostly because, I'm not trying to brag, but I always, just before even playing organized football, playing in the sandlots and playing in the street, I always knew I had pretty good hands. I could catch the ball, My problem was I was not fast at all, and then I had to learn how to run routes. And so, it was just really running routes and working on my speed. That's all I really needed to develop, and that's what the boy did. He recognized what I needed to do, and that's what we worked on a lot.
Was it tough playing with all those different quarterbacks your first, 5-6 years in the league?
Well, all that, I wasn't worried about who was throwing it. I was worried about who they were throwing it to, hoping they were throwing it to me. So there were, guys never really played with anybody that was left-handed. So, I didn't have to adjust, to that. So, again, I again, not trying to pat myself on the back, but I knew the fundamentals that I had to do in order to catch football. Look the ball into my hand, catch it, and put it away. And that's something that I learned. And it didn't matter who threw the ball. You just saw that ball coming to you, and you just had to catch it. So, I did go through different. Some quarterbacks were they threw the ball a little late. Some threw it right on time. Some threw it hard. So they were just adjusting to the quarterbacks, which again, I didn't really have a problem with that. All I knew was just that ball coming towards me, and I had to catch it.
Did your height being 6'8" help you as a receiver? That most of the cornerbacks were probably 6 feet tall, if that.
Well, then a lot of it was even 6 feet. They were pretty. It pretty much. I ran the fastest time I've had in the 40 was like a 4.6. So with my height and with the my arms, that kind of took a tenth of a second off. A half of a tenth of a second or something like that. Because that reach and all, it put it. It took some. It added some speed to you.
How was it when Roger Gorse became the starting quarterback? Did that help knowing that you had the same quarterback week after week, year after year?
Well, we knew each other. There was times that we could just look at each other, and I look at him, and he look out at me, and we knew what we're doing. Or we had talked about it, in practice all week, what we're going to do if this guy does this, if they give us this coverage, if they blitz us. We knew with each other what we're going to do. I mean, there was a couple of times when he called a play in the huddle, and when I ran the pattern, if I was going to run a corner pattern, the defensive back sat out there in the corner, and so I had to adjust. I went to the post, So and that was just, and we beat Dallas like that, a couple other teams like that, but it was just knowing each other, And again, as you said, being together for a few years.
Who was your biggest rival in the 70s? Was it the Cowboys?
Yeah. Well, with the Eagles, pretty much everybody, because we were in that division with the Cowboys, the Giants, Washington, and back then it was the Cardinals. The Cardinals was not that big rivalry, but the other three teams, they were so close, except for Dallas. And, nobody likes Dallas, So, but the next games was the Cowboys. The Giants and Washington. And they were the big rivalries, because we especially like I said, the Giants and Washington, they were so close by, so they were big rivalries. Yeah. So and Dallas, when again, Dallas, nobody cared for Dallas at all,
What cornerback in the NFL gave you the toughest problems?
Wow, well, that's what we talk about the NFL. When you get in the NFL, there's a lot of guys that played. I didn't play against Mel Blount that much, and we beat them right the year after they went to the Super Bowl. But he was one of the toughest. Mike Haynes had Lester Hayes, he had Everson Walls. Oh gosh, man! A bunch of guys that was in that division. Joe Lavender. Man, I mean, they're all 40 teams that were in that in our division. They were, the guys. They were tough because we played them twice a year, and it made it kind of tough to kind of beat these guys when you see them twice a year. So.
How did it feel when you finally made the Super Bowl in 1980?
Well, it's great because we did. We worked very hard to get there. Unfortunately, we didn't win the game, but the years that we played from, we were together from 1976 to 1980. There were some. We put in work to get to the Super Bowl, and till this day, right now, it still hurts that we didn't win that game. We should have won that game, and but it was there. I guess it was their time is that day to win the football game. I thought we were a better team, but they came out. They were on fire and all. So, but again, I haven't watched that game till this day. Never watched the replay of it. I just couldn't do it.
Who covered you in that game? Was it Lester?
Lester Hayes, and we went from both sides. One from one side to the other. Michael Haynes and all too.
So, what was it like playing for Dick Vermeil?
Well, at the beginning, we thought the guy was insane because of the way how hard we worked every day, and but if I look at that now, if I had to do it again, I would do it. I've learned so much from Coach Vermeil, just to work hard, work harder than anybody else can work at what you do, and surround yourself with good people. It was awesome. I was just with Coach Vermeil last weekend. It was like I said, one of my teammates had passed and went to a service with him. But Coach Vermeil, I do a foundation, the Otho Davis Scholarship Foundation, and we give out the Dick Vermeil Award every year, and Coach is there every year. We're going into our 25th year. I'm sorry, he missed 1 year where we had to reschedule and stuff, but he supports every one of his teammates that reach out to him for him to support. I mean, last week we were at two different functions, and he was there for one of my teammates. Reggie Wilkes got the United Negro College Fund Award, so Coach Vermeil was there to support him. Coach Vermeil, I mean, he's unbelievable. He's 85 years old, and he gets around better than I do. And the guy is amazing. He is amazing. He did the eulogy for one of our teammates last weekend, as I told you, but and he was awesome. He was awesome with that. So it was an experience. It was a great experience, and gosh, I wish I would have had him. Not knocking any other of the coaches, but he was a coach. He was a fan. He felt like family was a part of what we did, and we brought family around, which you don't find too many teams that does that anymore. But we'll have family to barbecues and all of that, and it was awesome. And he's still really a big part of my family.
What was it like playing in Philly with those fans? Was it tough or fun or both?
Well, I've been booed before because I dropped a couple of passes. I did, I knew the reason for it because I knew how the fans were and was trying to, we weren't that good when I first got to Philadelphia, and I was trying to carry the team on my shoulders, on my back, and trying to run before catching the pass, and you would drop them, and they would boo you, and I understood that, but the Philadelphia fans are some of the greatest fans you ever want to be around because they are very truthful. Well, but you would hear the boos that you hear a lot of times. There are people that, the stadium back in the 70s held about 72,000 people, and probably about 2,000 or 3,000 of those people that's in that stand, they would do a lot of the booing, and do all the crazy stuff. The fans is not what they, a lot of people think they are, but you look at fans all around the NFL, and Philadelphia would be number one terrible fan base. They would not be in they should be in the top 5 or top 3. I guarantee they wouldn't. I've known some other fans, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there's some teams I've been around that really, really, bad, nasty fans.
What was it like to go play for the rival for a short time, the Cowboys, and Landry?
Well, it was tough for me to do that. It was between my wife and my agent. They convinced me, well, you never played for another team. You should just go and see what it's like. And I did. I first, but I went to the Jets for 2 weeks, and was happy when they released me there. I twisted my ankle there, and then about a week later, I get a call from my agent, and he's telling me that he's got me a tryout with the Cowboys. And I told him, I said, man, I can't go to the Cowboys. All of the dirt I've done to them, and how mean they've been to me. How can I go there now? So he convinced me. So he said, well, you got a flight out 2:00 tomorrow. And I was in a meeting, a large meeting, and I got home, put on my running stuff, and it's like 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm running, trying to sweat some of that beer I was drinking out of me. And so, I got on the plane the next day, and we went into Dallas. And I've had one of the greatest experiences in football, my football career. I wasn't playing that much. One night we were playing a team, and they started chanting my name, wanting me to get in the game. And it started the bench. The little group behind me, the bench started it, and then that whole section started it. Then before I knew it, the whole stadium was chanting my name, and to get into the game. And Coach Landry said, "Carmichael, get in the game." I went in for 2 plays. It was a running play. The next time they threw a pass to me. I caught that one, and the next pass they threw to me, it was over my head. So I only caught one pass in Dallas, and we were supposed to come back to Philadelphia about 3 weeks after that. And about 2 weeks before we came back, the Cowboys released me, and I was so happy. So I said, I cannot go back to Philadelphia, but with my head between those stars. It was crazy.
What was your favorite moment in the NFL?
Oh gosh, I guess I've had a bunch of them, but one of my favorites was finding out that I was going to make going to the Pro Bowl, making All Pro, and then going to the Super Bowl. That was very exciting, and what was another little but not exciting as the first two was retiring. We're worried about getting beat up too much, but no, there was pretty much 3: getting drafted, going to the Pro Bowl, going to the Super Bowl, and probably retiring. Yeah.
When you went into the NFL, I mean, the cornerbacks could bump more, were more physical, and then it started to open up a little in the 80s. Was it harder playing receiver when you first got in than later on?
Oh well, it's when I first came to the NFL, you had clotheslining. They can bump you all the way down the field, not just bump you. Some of us clotheslining you, throwing elbows at you. Today you don't have to worry about anybody hitting you. If what they call how do they call this? A defenseless receiver. Guys don't care about going across the middle. My first few years in the league, you going across the middle, it was dangerous. Not even if the ball wasn't coming to you, they would clothesline you. And I mean, it wasn't easy playing wide receiver back in the day.
I mean, yeah, you had Dick Butkus, Jack Lambert. I mean, those middle linebackers were ferocious.
Yeah, Lawrence Taylor. I only played maybe 1 or 2 years against Lawrence. I can't remember how many, but you had him, Willie Lanier. These guys. I mean, Harry Carson. You didn't go across the middle. And I played 1 year against. Gosh, as soon as I get ready to say, I can't think of his name, for the Green Bay Packers linebacker there. But these guys,
Nitschke?
Ray Nitsky. Oh gosh, I can't believe as great a guy as that guy was. We've been was together a few times, but played against him. But awesome linebacker. There's a bunch of guys in there. My I played against Bill Berge before he came with the Eagles, and Bill was, he was one of the toughest linebackers. I can't understand why he's not in the being thought about. I got to look at his numbers as far as interceptions and tackles, but he was a mean linebacker and a very tough. When he was with the Eagles, watched him play against. Really loved the way he played.
I know a guy you probably knew who you didn't play against, who I probably was one of the toughest guys, was Chuck Bednarik. He was just crazy. Can you imagine playing against him back in the day?
Yeah, well, back there, that was gladiators back there. You played back there, everything. You could be down on the ground, they still hit you. The rules were still, if he's still moving, hit him. But yeah, Chuck was a ferocious linebacker. Being a great two-way player, playing center and linebacker. Being a center, you know how the linebacker's going to play, and playing linebacker, you know what the centers were doing. So that's what made him so awesome also.
How did it feel when you finally got in the Hall of Fame?
Well, it was, I really, sometimes I still have to kind of check myself because I can't still hardly believe that I'm in there. Again, it's taking so long to get in there. Looking at numbers and all, I just felt that I could have been in there, but the only thing they was held against me that we didn't win the Super Bowl. We had guys that had better numbers then, but didn't win the Super Bowl. So after getting in, and until this day, sometimes I have to really go back and think about it. Hey, you're in the you're in the Hall of Fame. A lot of people still, saying Hall of Famer to me. It's an unbelievable. You can't get any higher in the National Football League than the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
A lot of Hall of Famers say that it means more to their family than it does to them to make the Hall of Fame, that the family seems to enjoy it more.
Well, I know my family does. They don't brag about it, but I saw and I heard and I kind of felt what they were feeling when they found out about it. They don't brag, but I think, when they walk around, they kind of strut a little bit, because I'm in there. And just to one of the toughest things that happened when I got the call of going into the Hall of Fame for 2 days, for a day and a half, I say, I couldn't tell my son because they didn't want anybody to know until it was about a day. I couldn't. It was a day I was trying to keep from telling him. I could tell my wife, and we had to swear her to secrecy that she wouldn't tell anybody. I was talking to Dave Baker, the past president of the Hall of Fame, and I asked him, I said, who can I tell? He said, Harold, don't tell anybody. They wanted to really announce it on Good Morning Football first. And I said, well, I can't tell him. He said, no. I said, I can't tell my wife. I said, oh, I better not tell her because if I tell her, she's going to tell everybody. But he said, you can tell her. But I had to swear, to secrecy that she wouldn't say anything to my son. Excuse me. And so again, that was one of the toughest things for us both to not tell my son about it.